Good evening, and the last evening that we're going to be here in 2025. Oh man, what has 2025 wrought? What does 2026 hold? That's going to be the main topic tonight, plus a few news items on an extra long special countdown to 2026 with our guest, the absolute greatest podcaster of all time, Dr. David Livingston, from the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. My name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. As you know, this program is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. And what do we do every day? We champion and strengthen the emerging space startups and space adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Our pitch events and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor ready. Now, a lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by our listeners and fans like you. So remember, the Center is a 501c3 nonprofit, and this is a time of year where everyone asks to dig deep. I know. Our annual appeal letter is posted on our website. We invite you to check it out on the news and blog section of that website. And we've also shown you a link to it. So thanks so much already in advance for all your help this year. And we're moving on. We're having a year-end show. We've got a few news items, but we also have a lot of stuff to discuss. What happened this year and why should you care? My oldest space friend, Michael Lane, who just finished reading this mezuzah, is here with us. Michael, come on in, man. There he is.
Hey, how's things?
Oh, good. Happy New Year, man.
Good.
How
Happy New Year to you. How was your Christmas?
Christmas was okay. It was, I got some weird news, but I'm not going to talk about that online.
Okay.
It's all right. It all works out.
Right.
Other than that, I just did, interestingly, I just did a show with our guest tonight, yesterday afternoon. He did his year-end show, which is a tradition for us.
Right.
So that was fun. It was the first time I did it with a live audience. So it was like, because in previous years, it's just audio.
And
I'd have my headset plugged in. I could wear my underwear and pace around the office, or whatever. But now I got to look like me. And there's, other people on there that are, shouting at me for my tomfoolery. So that was an interesting experience, but it was fun. We covered a lot of stuff. Some of which we'll probably cover again here, but we're going to have a more of a money-centered focus. So there'll be an overlap. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's always an overlap. I just got into it with our producer Sean over some material I posted, but we got to figure it out. No worries. So what's up with you? What's going on?
Christmas was quiet, probably the quietest I've had in a couple of years, actually. That was nice. It was quiet. It was kind of chill, kind of helpful. Hung out with my mom and her family on Christmas Eve. My brother yesterday. Yeah, just quiet. It was quiet. Yeah, good. It was good. Yeah.
Good. I see Morty's already here. Jason's already here. Hey guys, I hope more guys pop in. I know Joe Prostretto said he's going to try to come on, and we'll see who all shows up. This is
sure.
Yeah. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas to all of you. I only have a handful of news items I found really quick. We can go through those because we have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. It's the end of the year. What happened? Why do we care?
Right.
And I know for me, the top event, the top thing, if you could pick the what is the one thing we learned in 2025? What do you think it is, Michael?
The thing I learned in 2025 is that the past does not predict the future, right? We've had this slow growth for 25 years, and then all of a sudden it's straight up. And I think that is I think that's a big change. I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going to a very lame place with that, but no, you did okay. You
No. I was like, no, like if we and we'll talk to Livingston here in a minute, but I mean, if we were to look back, look, this is the last few days of the first quarter of the 21st century. We're solidly in the 21st century now.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And if you were to look back at 2001, 2004, 2007, 2015, even,
yeah.
slow. And then all of a sudden, 2025, it's a hockey stick growth, right?
Yeah,
so,
I do have a few stats to share with you on that a little later.
It kind of started growing in 2020, and we started seeing a tipping point there. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing.
What's for you?
The biggest thing I learned was that short, squat, stubby spacecraft land on the moon more successfully than tall, skinny ones. No doubt about it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I got to go off screen if I'm going to check that message, Sean. Our producer is telling me I have to check messages, and it's actually on my phone on the other side of the room. So just give me a minute.
Yeah, we've been having some problems on the back end a little bit. So we're getting that sorted out.
That is awkward.
Uh-huh.
You
just had to change the password, didn't you?
Yep. I tell him I emailed it to you. So just moments before the show, we lost Sean, our producer. So we are trying to get him back. So I'm trying
that would be helpful.
Juggle a little bit.
Sure.
I'm gonna kill a little bit of time and answer Jason's question. My mom's recovery is great. She is doing so well. She had 2 surgeries since June. One was seriously life or death. The other one was more maintenance more than anything else, but she's doing terrific. I couldn't ask for a better recovery. So she'll be, and she turns 81 in 5 days. So she's doing great. Yeah.
Good.
Thanks
you
for
still
asking.
have her. That's a great thing. That's a great thing.
Right? Yeah. I
lost my folks long ago. I'm an orphan now. So it's
right.
I love how Jason says, stop making sense. Depends on what side of the country you're on. They say since on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, they say it more like since.
Yeah.
Since you've been gone. It's just an accent type thing. It's a regional thing. But yeah, people couldn't understand me when I moved, from West Coast in Colorado to New York. And I was like, what?
All right, let's jump into it. What do we got?
Well, there's a whole bunch of China stuff again. China is dominates it, even in an off week.
Right.
They debuted, I guess, successfully. They're because they've been working on reusables. Well, apparently they converted a Long March, one of their standard Long March rockets, into a reusable. And it's called the 12A, and they just test flew it like the other day. And so that was something. And I didn't know they even had rules or what the rules were, but apparently also China has eased the IPO rules for firms developing reusable rockets, including themselves, the government, I guess.
Right.
So I didn't know there were IPO rules in China to begin with.
Yeah.
But there it is. There it is.
Yeah. way, way, way back in time. It might have been maybe 1992. That's when I was an active investment advisor. Our firm, through two parties, once when the stock market crested over 3,000, like the Dow Jones, right? The Dow Jones at 3,000. And was it now 48,000? I mean, kind of insane.
Right.
And then the other party we threw was when they opened the stock market in China.
Yeah.
And it was my boss said he used that phrase all the time. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. And here we are, 35, almost not quite 40 years later. And yeah, they have a thriving secondary market.
Is
It's
that the Hang Seng?
from ours. Yep. It's
That's the
different
Hang
from
Seng
ours.
index, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've been watching that for a long time.
Yeah, but yeah, they got rules. This is the Shanghai. This one
Yeah.
was at the Shanghai Stock Exchange.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
All
wild.
right.
Yeah,
But they're also
they do monitor money differently than we do, right?
yeah. Of course they do.
And
They
investor
because
protections and things like that differently.
look, you could take the boy out of communism, but you can't take communism out of the boy. I'm sure a lot of these companies that they're following and they're putting up rules for, they have a political officer somewhere embedded in
Right.
every one of them.
Sure.
Just like the good old days. Some things don't change.
Yeah.
But the other thing though, here's the even crazier thing. Because they eased the IPO rules, they've started a reusable rocket, and now they're launching a venture capital fund.
Right. Back to back, right? They're watching
in one excruciating week.
They're watching the American playbook and saying that's a good idea, and that's a good idea, and that's a good idea. So let's go do those good ideas.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that goes.
Yep.
How that goes. The only other thing, Japan had they call it their flagship H3 rocket, and they tried it out, and I guess it failed to launch a satellite. So they're struggling a little bit in the last week or two. They just failed on another rocket not too long ago. And so, yeah, there it is. Terminated prematurely. I like that.
That is this national sovereignty we keep talking about. Yeah. But it's bumpy, right? It's bumpy to get your own space program up to the level of I wouldn't even say it's close to the American level program. It's not even close to the European level program. I mean, it is a bumpy path to get that much capability.
Right. They're not, But everybody seems to want that now. They don't like political instability around the world. And we've talked about this before. The Euros decided a while back. We need to stop depending on the Americans for everything. We've got to start building our own shit.
Yeah.
And so that's how you end up with a foreign-owned gateway.
I was talking to somebody on Saturday about Europe taking over Gateway. He is a guy, I'm not going to out him, but he just retired about 4 or 5 months ago from the space industry. He was at a very well-known prime, and he's been off fishing. He's been off doing trips with his wife. And I just happened to casually mention that European Space Agency took over Gateway, and he just looked at me like I had just mumbled a different language, and he looked at me like, that's impossible. You cannot possibly be right. And I'm like, check the internet, dude. Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's there. Well, was he talking to this head or the second head that you grew in his
right. Exactly. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
They also have a thing. I don't know. They're calling it the SpaceX Mafia.
I think that's a thing.
I think that's a thing too.
Yeah, I do. And I think it's, let's assume that everybody gets liquidity next year and they cash out. There's going to be a lot of SpaceX people on the hunt for the next cool thing.
Well, look at that tag. I mean, they've already
So
launched startups of 3 billion total. That's
Yeah.
going to be the tip of the iceberg, I think.
Right. Yeah. Look at this list. Okay, just
I know.
Sean, scroll through this. There's like more than a dozen companies here, and I only know about 8 or 10 of them.
Right.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised with it. And some of these are giant, like multi 100 million companies. Yeah.
Already just getting started.
And that's my point, is that next year, when there's a flood of new money in the system, and a bunch of those folks become free agents because they're not, held to the golden handcuffs to SpaceX, and they're loose, suddenly I bet you next year is going to go nonsense, crazy next year. It's going to be wild.
Yeah. And that's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to report on. I guess they said, here's another one from New Scientist. They said hopes of finding aliens were raised in 2025, but they quickly faded.
And poof.
And that's the Atlas, the 3i Atlas thing.
Right.
But every conspiracy nut out there was going on about, oh yeah, that's a solid object. That has people in it or something. And it's coming closer. It's going to get closer. And so, yeah, you see too many of those movies, right? And it's like, okay, all right.
I totally fell for the hype of 3i Atlas. I thought it was fascinating. I did not once ever think it was aliens. I'm just going to say that for the record.
Sure.
But I hoped it was aliens, right? I didn't think that it was, but I hoped that it was, right? See the difference? That distinction's important.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like the old Fox Mulder poster, on his wall. I want to believe.
I want to believe. Exactly. I totally buy into that. Yeah.
Yep.
I was pretty impressed by Dr. Loeb at Harvard. He kept a pretty level head. A lot of people took his questions and turned them into internet fact. And so a lot of intentional misreading for the hype and for the clicks. But yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting to kind of watch that unfold. It was neat. I liked it. Yeah.
As you know, we talk about, we're the intersection of space and money, right? I did a fun little task, and Sean tried to call me out on it, not understanding what I was trying to do. And he sent me this huge email full of a whole bunch of stuff he got from the AI, And I said, no, that's not what I mean. I went through all of our scripts from 1st of January to now. And I just put the numbers down of the companies that we personally reported, individual companies that got money. And that added up to 25 companies getting a total of $2.2 billion. I'm not counting what the Japanese putting in 6.8 billion. I'm not counting Luxembourg. I'm not counting Germany putting in money. I'm not counting the UK and all that. I'm not counting any of that. I'm certainly not counting the 1.5 trillion that JP Morgan wants to do. None of that. These are just people that actually got checks from other people.
Right.
That we reported on.
Right. That's only the ones that we reported on, right? Like we can't cover everything. We didn't. We never tried to.
And one of the official reporters of all this, of the industry, and they only have data up through Q3 that they could publish. Right. And at that point, there was $3.5 billion total investment at that point. And so here it is a quarter later. So if we just guess another, 1 to 1.5, even conservatively, that's $5 billion for the year, which is still higher than last year and a lot of other years. And so, but there's a whole bunch of other data. And if Sean feels the need to share some of it later, if it's important, he can put it in the chat or put this thing on the screen. That's okay. We can talk about that. But the point is, there's a crap ton of money flowing into this industry, and it's getting bigger all the time.
It
The
is
uh, the
insane.
original at the end of last year, the whole industry was valued at 612 billion. They're saying this year it's closer to 630.
Yep.
And so we're on track for $1 trillion industry by say 2034.
Oh, I think it's going to happen
Maybe
sooner
sooner.
than that.
Maybe
I do.
sooner.
I do think it's going to happen sooner.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be 2030. It's going to be more like 32, 33. But yeah.
I've got, I'm not one to do these, crystal balls for next year. That's not really my style. But
Yep.
I'll tell you, I am excited about next year. I really am. There was a guy who is a writer at Payload, Jack Kerr, and he put out 23 predictions. And I'm like, I agree with that one, and 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 that one's a question mark. I hadn't considered that, and I agree with that one.
You get a prediction.
Right.
And you get a prediction.
23 predictions, and I'm like, if half of these work, we're going to be busy next year, and if all of them work, it's a game changer. So
that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Again, as we move forward, I made a whole list yesterday for all the stuff that we could potentially talk about, and if we have time to, with our guests coming up here in a minute. But the general topics were global launch, Starship, events, just general events of the year, interesting ones that I thought of. You may think of some more. Investment, we just started talking about policy stuff, what the future might look like, and what the hell are we doing at the center next year?
Right.
And we got, should put some of that in there. So why don't we bring on our guest and let him join us on all this wonderful fun?
Awesome.
As you know, Dr. David Livingston is the founder and host of the Space Show, has been for over 20 years, and he's the pioneer of space podcasting forever and ever, and he's still the king. And let's bring him on, man.
Thank you. If I'd known you were going to refer to me as a king, I'd have stopped by Burger King on the way here and gotten one of their Burger King New Year's
to wear for. Yeah, let's get creepy with it. Oh, cool. This is good.
Next year for the annual show, since you miss not being able to lounge around in your underwear and just be on the phone, I'm going to get you Star Wars or Star Trek briefs, and then you can be in the Zoom wearing your space briefs, and you'll be right at home.
Awesome.
Guaranteed. If I can find a size large enough, they're usually
all right. I've actually lost weight, so okay. Well, we won't go there.
You took the fat shot, huh?
Yeah.
No, not anymore. I didn't take it. No, I didn't take the fat shot. I just stopped eating and boozing so much.
Yeah, that's really all you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. How you been, man? I know it's been a great year for you. You've been doing a lot of good stuff, and you're having all these.
We got rid of telephones and went to Zoom. We got onto Substack. We got onto YouTube, and we started doing more panel programs with 3 or 4 or 5 people rather than just me doing the interviews. But I missed that. So for 2026, I'm gonna do a little more of the me one-on-ones in Zoom, and then still keep up with the panels. But there is so much going on, and there is so much science. Like my CBS show with Hotel Mars and John Batchelor, he clips Nature and Science articles. He sends me 5 or 6 a week. Get the guest on the show. Get the guest on the show. 53 super black holes discovered by a guy in India using an Indian scope and a Kenya scope. Super black holes. I mean, I can go through some of the archives of those shows. The amount of science discovery with James Webb in 2025 has been beyond stellar. It's unbelievable. They still claim they haven't unlocked all the keys to the universe. So
not by a long shot.
Not by a long shot. It's just a never-ending thing. And then the amount of more money pouring into commercial space, not just in the U.S., but around the world.
Mhm.
is unbelievable. That doesn't mean it's all going to be successful, but the money is flowing, the ideas and the dreams and the creativity and the imagination is flowing. And if it's left on its own, we might find that we have a better world going through space than we ever had by not doing anything with space.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of worlds to explore with all the new telescopes and everything the last few years. We now know of, we've recorded 6,000 extra solar planets
Yeah, unbelievable.
in
So
30 years.
who's looking at us? That would be a
Right.
great question to answer if we could figure out who's looking back at us.
Yeah, if anybody. But I look at the way the world is going sometimes, and I tell myself, yeah, I finally figured out the Fermi paradox. Uh,
Nobody wants to say hi because we're awful.
but we're all nuts and we go insane and we kill ourselves before we can,
Right.
build a warp drive.
Well,
Right.
that's really likely. As each day you read the papers, we're on track for that kind of scenario. So hopefully we'll get serious and grow up sometime. But
I hope so too. Or we wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't be doing shows like this if we're all just doom and gloomers. That's not us.
Nope.
No, and I think next year, one of the things to me that is most promising, and I know a lot of people probably be pissed off and hate me for saying it, but the fact that we have the Trump administration in office, the likelihood of regulatory or some kind of government interference or environmental interference stopping, slowing down, or preventing launches or commercial space ventures or something like that is pretty nil, short of a catastrophic third-party property damage accident or human accident.
Yeah.
And I think this is really good news, not because the commercials want to trash the planet or screw things up. That's just nonsense. But when you're building a new economy and it's off planet and you're pushing envelopes on so many different fronts, to get caught up in regulations that are antiquated and not applicable, that can stop you, slow you down, stop the flow of money, stop the flow of capital, all sorts of things. You don't want that. You want the progress. You want the creations that make our life better on Earth, like the pharmaceutical industry. They're not all bad, evil, bastards. Look at what they're doing on
Most
this.
of them,
So I think we're fortunate that we're going to have a couple of more years for sure of pretty good regulatory permissions to push forward with AI and with space technologies and new things. I think that's really critical. And so you asked me before we started what excites me, and that excites me that we kind of can move forward really based on common sense, based on technology, based on ingenuity, and we can trust, and I do trust, that companies aren't going to go out and evilly destroy the world. I don't think that's what companies and business are all about.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on some of the big stuff that we know is going to happen next year? Right. So, Doug was asking about New Glenn. We all are pretty hyped about SpaceX. Where do you think those are going to take us next year?
New Glenn is hard for me to predict because they've been so very, very flaky, and they just slow. But they do have different management. I'm aware of that. They have put a lot of effort into their up and down yo-yo over there in West Texas. And so, that flies somewhat on a regular basis. I have no idea how those as passengers on it, I should correct myself, space flight participants,
Right?
Get on that flight. Do you, Tom? Can they go to Ticketron and buy a ticket on it? I mean, how do you? They always announce who the who the spaceflight participants are, how they get on it. Does Bezos individually select them? Do they pay money for it?
I think they just pay.
So,
No, that's definitely not true.
Really?
No. George Neal, as much as I love and admire that guy, definitely does not have George Neal. He was the
head of AST for a long time. He was one of the heads of it.
FAA for years. Yeah.
And they're like, here's a trip to space, buddy, because you're good for the industry. No, they have I don't know what their internal process is. This is not me speaking from knowledge. This is me speaking from guesses.
So it's not a true commercial process.
No, there are some people. There are some people who have paid some tickets, but that all female crew, that was a PR stunt of all time, right? So they definitely pick people for the look of the flight, not just for the economics of the flight.
Yeah, who's going to look good in the spacesuit, right?
Right. Well, I mean, that's not what I meant, but Sian Proctor was a pretty good example of somebody who really, their time had come. They put in their dues, they'd done the work, but they never got to be an astronaut. Like they are picking people that are politically useful for them to put on a plate.
But there's people out there somewhere who plunked down that first $250,000 or 500,000 going, I got bumped for Katy Perry. Come on, man.
I know one guy, and he's on the space show a couple of years ago, but I won't tell you his name. But he made the comment on the show that it was the best $16 million he ever spent. Okay. A lot of money. I would like to see commercial space tourism, which was the subject of my doctoral dissertation decades ago.
Right, yeah.
That's true commercial, that where you can go buy a ticket. There's a time schedule, like a train schedule or a plane schedule. We don't have that. So it's a Jeff Bezos chosen kind of schedule, and that's fine. Great people are flying. I love to see it flying. It's flying successfully. But in terms of what New Glenn can do, it's lethargic to say the least.
Okay, well, here's the thing. It just occurred to me because I just want to get back on this guy who said the best $16 million he ever spent. Was that on a New Shepard?
Yeah, it was on New Shepard.
Just to be clear. Okay. Well, 25 years ago, Dennis Tito flew all the way to the ISS on a Soyuz. He did not spend more than $20 million for the whole ride. Neither did Anusha Ansari. Now, the whole idea of technology development is supposed to be the prices go down as you improve things and provide more services to more people and have competition. Where did that go?
Well, it bowed and took a back seat to supply and demand. And when you want to go, and the only way to go is New Shepard, and you got the bucks to burn, hey, you go. But as I said, a true commercial market is like I can go buy something on Amazon. They got a true commercial market, right? Or I can go to American Airlines and buy a ticket, or Southwest, any place I want to go. And I can negotiate the price depending on all sorts of different factors. We don't have that yet. So I'd love to see that happen. I don't think I will see it happen because there's not going to be any competition to New Shepard, because nobody's really going to bring forth suborbital. I'm pessimistic that Virgin is going to do it, but I could be proven wrong on Virgin. What do you guys think? Virgin's going to pull it off, or are you a little bit on the pessimistic side?
Virgin has pulled so many rabbits out of a hat. It's hard for me to be, it's hard for me to make a prediction because they have a history of pulling rabbits out of a hat. So I don't know what to say. I used to be super bullish on them. Then I became really skeptical of them. And now I'm just unsure. So I don't have an answer to that one.
Real quick, you have a comment. Jason, he's asking about New Glenn. So real quick, New Glenn is not in the overview category. This is a workhorse large rocket that could possibly used as a launcher to get a human payload down onto the moon. This is totally different than New Shepard, where you can go past the von Karman line, or at least up to it. I know they measure space a little bit differently on that, and you can then see the overview effect. New Shepard is more on the order of Starship and big heavy rockets, so don't confuse the two.
Yeah.
And I hope New Shepard enters the commercial market, and there is competition. Competition is great, keeps prices down, gives people options, gives companies options. So I'm a little on the fence of New Shepard, of New Glenn.
But,
As for Starship, they got a lot of hurdles to still jump through to become operational. And this is a really big, complex rocket. And it is heavy, and it's got mass considerations. And they haven't yet flown version 3, which needs to fly and needs to successfully get to orbit. To get to the moon, they need to refuel multiple times. So
Well, that's their plan. I looked at their whole SpaceX plan for this year, for next year, and their next launch is a Block 3, and it's late January.
Yeah,
and it's supposed to go, and it's still suborbital just to test out the system. But the next 6 launches after that are supposed to go orbital.
Supposed to be orbital, and they got to start testing fuel transfer and all sorts of things. So it's a big hurdle, but I'm one who likes to look at people more than business plans and technology. And I would just, on my own doing, I can't tell you to do the same thing. I would not ever bet against Elon Musk. I would not
at all.
He is gifted. He makes things happen, whether you hate him or not, is immaterial. I know not everything he's done has been successful. Falcon 1 had some payloads on it I had for space burial, and they're down near the Marianas Trench someplace. So not everything he touches turns to gold, but I wouldn't bet against him. But I am optimistic that Starship will become operational. I'm less optimistic that we can get back to the moon on a 2028 timeline.
I was going to ask you about that. So 2028 is the target. That's what Jared Isaacman just said, reiterated a couple days ago. The White House reiterated a couple days ago. How do I'm not trying to be negative here. How do we land on the moon by 2028? How do we do it?
My thoughts are you cannot do it according to the program of record with Artemis 3. So I do think you can make Artemis 3 work, but there's too many ifs and too much testing that needs to be done. And you can't do it. Now, first of all, the timeline is artificial. So this timeline was created, first it was going to be 2026, remember?
Yep.
And then originally, when Artemis was conceived, it was going to be before President Trump's first term ended, because he wanted to go to the moon while he was still president, first term. Yep. So now he wants to get us to the moon while he is still president, but also to beat China. But the announced China timeline is 2030 if they are telling the truth. Now, they may not be telling the truth. They may be shooting for 2029. They may even be shooting for 2028 to stick it to Trump and say, you have made China great, not America great, because your stupid plan to go to the moon is too hard and you couldn't get it done by 2028.
Right.
I think it's really hard to do the program of record since none of it really exists. And, the lander doesn't exist and the fuel transfer doesn't exist. And they got to go to the Gateway, which is now a European creation, because the SLS rocket can't get directly to the moon. So they got this cockamamie orbit that they're using only because SLS is the rocket. So I think they would have to modify the program of record, be willing to say, we're going to do Apollo redux and, just do a vanity flight to put humans on the moon before China in 2028. I think if Starship got perfected, it could do direct to the moon if they got all the refueling flights done. So I think they need to come up with a simpler engineering plan. And will they do that? Will Congress change the program of record? Your guess is as good as mine. But I think the program as stands is at peril. And I do not think that Musk can make it happen in that time frame. Now, maybe they'll make it in 2029, but President Trump won't be there in 2029.
It's
Right.
just amazing all the things that get in the way of making this done when you consider we went from nothing to the moon in 8 years at one time in our past,
Right.
and now we can't even do it in 2. We already have 90% of what we need, and why we just light the torch and do this.
We used 6.5% of the federal budget the first time, and we're using
now we have
less than 1.5 of
0.33. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
it's all that stuff. And I mentioned the other day, it also, the thing, if you stick with Orion, you stick with SLS, you still need a lunar lander. And so Musk hasn't proved himself yet. The what is that called? The HLS. It's like a stubbier version.
And the Blue Moon lander doesn't exist from Bezos.
Right.
Nope.
Right. Nope. That's their only other place to go with if they could whip that together quickly. And you're basically just doing Apollo on Viagra then.
Absolutely. So if they want it by 2028, my opinion, I want to qualify myself. I'm not a mission designer. I'm not an aerospace engineer. I'm a radio jock. And just from all the people I've talked to, Mike Griffin, lots of other people, no, it will not happen with the current program of record and the current infrastructure plan. But it can happen if they get their butts in gear and come up with a much simpler space mission architectural plan. They probably are stuck using SLS. Some of them call for 2 launches of SLS, 1 cargo, 1 human. They rendezvous and then go down to the moon. They still need a lander because SLS is not going down to the surface of the moon. I hope they pull it out. I think getting to the moon before China does is important. I do think China is nefarious enough to be dishonest about their lunar timeline. And maybe they can do it by 2029 or 2028. But they have a 2-launch program. And, they don't have magic engineering any more than we do. So they're going to run up against hurdles and challenges too, even if we don't necessarily hear about them on page 1 or in the business news. So there's no guarantee that China has smooth sailing to meet their own timelines. They may have technical glitches as well. But I think it's important that we get back to the moon. We have to get back to the moon to stay. Just doing an Apollo mission on Viagra doesn't do much for me. We need to have, even if it's an outpost with 4 people that spend 6 weeks at a time there or something, and then go back up to a gateway or a lunar station or something. We need to start a permanent presence on the moon, even if we don't go to the South Pole, but we choose an easier landing spot. You're never going to get to point B from point A unless you get your ass off of point A. So, the rest of it, space is so rich with rhetoric and talk and fantasy and magical thinking and dreams that have no chance of ever, getting 1 foot in launch off the face of the earth. It's rich in this history. But
if you could cash those in, every man's a billionaire.
That's right. So you gotta be grounded and you gotta get going. And we have a lot of opportunities now to get going. And I hope we don't squander. But look, you guys watch Congress and politics probably as much, if not more than I do. I'm tuning it out. I'm so disgusted with it. But this requires agreement and bilateral support. And legislation that's passed. Are these bozos, willing to, come on board? Bernie Sanders is out there with a global video talking about we need to stop or slow down the AI progress. We don't need it. I mean, and we're going to need all these people. We're going to need, the far left and the far right to somehow come together to create the kind of policy and infrastructure that we need. Look, I know you're not doing a political show, but these are tough times for constructive government, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't see any sign that 2026 is going to be any better, especially since it's a midterm year.
We have said on this show hundreds of times, and we'll keep saying it, that space is purple, right? There's a place for the reds and there's a place for the blues. And but the rest of it, it's not, we don't see a lot of that cooperation.
Yeah, don't come and touch my space. You got to go screw up everything else, but you leave space alone.
Right, exactly.
Well, I wanted to bring up something. We were talking about the China threat and everything, and if they're going to maybe they'll do it in 29 instead of 30. They're just saying 30 to gaslight you. It could just as easily be the other way. They're saying 2030 to gaslight us because the real answer is probably 2032 or 33. Because China has more challenges in with fewer resources than the U.S. does. They're trying to keep up in everything. They're trying to build reusables. They're trying to build thorium reactors. They're trying to build space solar. They're trying to keep up in AI. They're trying to keep up in all sorts of things. And all those other things they're trying to do also require limited resources. And so it's a matter of what they can reasonably, effectively put into use to get done what they could get done. I'm not saying what I'm saying is absolute truth. I'm just saying there is a possibility, a non-zero possibility that they're actually, being very dreamy about their projections, and realistically, it might take longer. But we don't want to rest on our laurels and think that's true. We need to get there fast and just get it done. And
they've got their problems too. That's why I say there's no assurance they're going to be sure sailing into a 2030 launch or a 2029 launch. They can meet their challenges and have delays just like we do, and they're not transparent. We don't know a whole lot about what they may or may not be able to really pull off. But I do think it's going to be a really interesting year on the entrepreneurial side and on the government side.
Yeah.
Do you want to make any predictions about 2026?
I think it'll be a real interesting year.
Okay, that's all you got.
Well,
throw it down a little bit. All right.
I think for the startups, you did a news article about all the guys at SpaceX that may be leaving and starting startups and stuff. So for the startups, I think 2026 may be a banner year for venture and investment capital flowing to opportunities in space. Now, that does not mean it's a banner year for successful ventures, because money is often dumb, stupider than hell. And it will flow to the first, sexiest, greatest business plan with great projections in it, with secret magical thinking that you could ever come across. So you got to see what the money produces. But I think it's going to be a year of a lot of available cash for entrepreneurs and investments in things like AI and in things like space. Absolutely.
Well, here's an interesting thing, because I looked up, like I said, we got solid numbers through end of third quarter, and so at that time, $3.5 billion was estimated to be totally invested, and most of it was, of course, still launch and related services. But interestingly, a little tiny bit at the bottom of the chart said emerging, what they call emerging industries, are getting a seat at the table. What does that mean? Commercial space stations, logistics startups, industrial things, and lunar stuff. That is getting a little bit of money, and enough to show on the chart.
Yeah.
when you think the billions, and then there's these four things here, but it's there. It's non-zero. It's really happening, and
Tom,
I'm looking to see more of that.
You're
Grow
looking at Space Capital's charts, right?
Yep.
Are you looking at 3 billion last quarter or 3 billion the whole year? Because it's
3 billion, 3.5 billion the whole year through third quarter. Investment.
I think that's right.
In companies.
Okay.
That's what they're saying.
Here's another projection. Again, I'm not talking about outcomes, just money flow, that we will see a huge amount of money flow to, and Tom, we talked about this yesterday, LEO orbital data centers.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying we're going to see conclusions to that investment or outcomes, because it will take time to engineer them, build them, develop them, get them into operation. We're probably not going to see any operating per se in 2026, but we will see the beginning of the cash flowing into that potential industry big time. But the outcome to me is unknown and is not able to be legitimately predicted. But we're going to see for several years a lot of money going into orbital data centers.
Right. Yeah. And so whether I'm a skeptic or not is immaterial. I mentioned this yesterday. I'll tell it for Michael now. It says, okay, I'm not absolutely sanguine about the immediate short-term success of any of this, but with the $1.5 trillion being piled into it by various sources, how do we tap into that?
Well, I don't know.
There should be a way, Michael.
I don't know.
To tap into that.
Why don't you ask Governor Walz? He might have a way for you to do that. Maybe I shouldn't make those jokes.
Oh God! Don't make me quote the TikTok videos from the Somalians. I just don't want to go there right now.
Great one on X with a guy who, well, let's just leave it. But but I was through it. So, but anyway,
any other things? Any other? There's a lot of great events that happened this year. Anything else stand out that we should probably mention? I love that Sumita and Butch finally got rescued after 9 months. That was a big event. Thanks, Elon, again. For doing that. Russia destroyed its own launch facility. Oops! Who knew? Right? Nobody put the brake on.
If you don't count the space industry, I think the capital gains made by members of Congress and the Senate in the stock market is a terrific accomplishment in 2025. I think catching Starship was really amazing when they caught it coming back. That was a phenomenal accomplishment. And I know when Starship was blowing up on launches and they finally had the successful one, that was a really great moment when we saw Starship fly and work perfectly. So those were two moments that I think were truly great. Avi Loeb was a guest on the show. He's been a guest about 4 times, maybe 5 times, this time on Atlas. And I thought he was really reasonable, not what all the kooks say to him, but I do agree. He thinks that we're going to have more and more of these objects coming in, and we're not prepared to track them and not prepared to analyze them and see what they are. And we really need to boost the resources to investigate this, because now we have the ability to see them and track them. And it would be a shame if we lose the scientific ability to study them. So I think his call for more resources and capabilities is reasonable, but everything wants more resources and more capabilities, more money.
Sure.
I mean, I'd hate to be the person that has to prioritize or say you get X and you get X minus 3, and
right.
That's a tough position. Musk found out how tough it was to kind of do that kind of prioritization. I guess that's something we've learned. If you're really a space guy, you don't want to necessarily get your hands dirty in politics, because that's not going to work very well for you.
Right.
Maybe
But then here's Jared Isaacman.
Yeah.
He bought his way up there twice. He's friends with Elon.
Well,
And
we'll
after
see.
2 tries, he gets to be head of NASA. How do you think he's going to do his
I
first year?
I think it's going to be really challenging, especially with Artemis, and especially since he has a boss that really wants to get to the moon while he is still president.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think Jared is going to have to be amazingly effective and efficient in decision making and listening to the right people to pull that off. He does not want to be the one to tell him, Mr. President, we are not going to make America great again in space. We're going to be a second leader to China.
Right. That's not a conversation I would want to have.
You don't want to be in that position. So I think he'll do okay. I think he's a bright guy, and I think he knows who to go to for counsel that can give him good counsel. But it is an unknown quantity, which I've heard someplace recently.
What a great title of
heard that term vaguely from somewhere.
Great,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What do you think of Jared? Do you think he's going to be a stellar NASA administrator?
Well, here's the thing. I talked to him briefly at ISDC this last year. That was between the two selection processes, right? So he was in and then he was out, and during his out time, he still agreed to speak at a keynote speaker at ISDC. I was in the reception line. I shook his hand and thanked him for his work, and kind of leaned in and kind of said, "You know what? I think you dodged a bullet." Right? And he just puts his head up, looks me straight in the eye very calmly, and says, "You're not the only guy that's told me that."
But what does he think? Does he think he dodged a bullet, or that he can take all this on and be great for NASA and America?
Well, you know what? I think at the time he was probably agreeing with those people and with me, but obviously he's had time to reconsider it and thought, the good I could do in that spot is going to be extremely hard and tough on me personally, but it might be worth my own misgivings.
Well,
that's how I see it.
I wish him well, and part of what he's going to have to handle is that. And I don't really mean to be political, but this is now not a comedy. This is a reality statement. The fact is that half of Congress, roughly, hates the president's guts. And the other half either loves him and he walks on water, or they tolerate him. And the people in America are split. And for Jared to move us forward with national space policy goals, to get to the moon by 2028, to do all sorts of things, he's got to thread needles and walk carefully, because he's in a really divisive and sometimes absolutely hateful, dishonest environment. And this is going to take, I think, more political skills and diplomatic skills than human skills than it's going to take technological and space skills to bring us together to where we can get our butts in gear with a program to take us to the moon. I see you have Dr. Cathari. He can't speak. You're on chat, but if you listen to him for 5 minutes, you'll get a dose of why it is absolutely impossible for a Starship to be going to the moon, and that you have to have a 2 SLS thing. That's the only choice today. But who's going to go tell the president or his chief of staff, Mr. President, Artemis 3 has no clothes. You want to be how do you do that and move the ball forward? So Jared has a tough nut to crack, probably much tougher than building his own business. Doing other things, because of the policy and the contempt and the dishonesty that we have going on probably on both sides. So I hope he does it. I really wish him well. We need the success, and I hope he's the one to make it successful. If he falters, we won't be successful. That's how I see it.
Right.
He is the key to however we do this to make it happen and to make it work.
Yeah. Well, here's something I just want to throw in. Because to balance, and we still don't know what the final budget's going to be. Have you seen the actual final number what the budget is? We still don't have one, and so he's got to dance around that too. But the other thing is, he also needs a good right hand, and the right hand, I think, in his case, given all the challenges, is going to be whoever his CFO turns out to be.
Well, they named one.
Greg Autry is the only guy whose name has come up, and
well, they
had a hearing yet.
They have a deputy NASA administrator that I believe is either up for Senate confirmation or has already gone through confirmation, and he's not experienced for this at all. I forget his name.
Yeah, that's why you need Autry.
But they already have him named. Well, Greg is not named. I agree. Greg is a great friend and a great guest on the show, and I like talking to him. And he is a guy that could make this happen. He's a financial guy more than an engineering guy, but he understands all this, and he could do it. Maybe one of your chat listeners will give us the name of the named and person up before the Senate who is supposed to be the deputy administrator, but he's an administrative guy. He doesn't have the wherewithal and the technology and the know-how to move NASA forward and to be Jared's right hand. So I don't know if it's final or not, but you're right, Tom. He needs a really good right hand.
By right hand, I think if Greg is the CFO, he's a good right hand for those purposes because he can navigate the budget thing. Now, whoever the deputy administrator is, maybe that person is being chosen simply on their proven ability to execute directives.
Probably.
And that may be it, to keep the load off of Jared a little bit.
So, AJ, if you're still on chat, please look it up and post the deputy administrator's name and something.
Anderson. He says Anderson.
Yeah. And he's an administrative guy. He you and Michael and me probably have more combined space technical knowledge and engineering knowledge than he has. So, but I think he's either before the Senate for confirmation or maybe already been approved.
Wow.
But so
I haven't heard a peep about this guy. Not one.
I don't remember his first name. AJ, you can post his first name and maybe post a link to where listeners want to know more about him can find out more about him. But yeah, I think Greg would be well. Let's all raise our hands. We vote for Greg, but are they going to see us?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they going to count our votes? I don't think so.
Let's switch gears for a bit and talk. I don't think that the Voyager IPO got enough attention this year. To me, that was kind of a really big moment. It was like a Netscape moment way back in history. And I don't feel like that really got that much attention. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Redwire, which I think is bigger and more involved than Voyager, went public several years ago.
Yep, but they went by within the kind of the quasi SPAC rules.
But they were successful, and they are really predominant, maybe. And so I think anything after Redwire that's kind of the same kind of thing, a space business that has grown because they've taken over and eaten up and merged other space businesses. I think I don't know what their sales numbers or revenue numbers are compared to Redwire, but I think Redwire sort of set the standard, and this is not at that standard. I'm just guessing. If you could give me their revenue numbers, their stock share values, different kinds of things where we could do a quid pro quo comparison, and I didn't think about that to even talk about it.
Sure.
But I've had so many people on the show from Redwire. Let me be transparent here.
Yeah.
Very biased because many of my friends are with Redwire.
I really like Andrew Rush a lot, and
Andrew and
Justin Kugler he's a rock star in my view.
Mike Gold and
Yeah,
a couple of other people.
Right.
And
they throw a great party.
Yeah, and I know people that have. I got to be really careful here. I know people whose experience with Voyager has not been comparable to my friend's experience with Redwire.
Okay, all
Let's
right.
leave it like that. So
Okay.
I didn't pay a lot of attention to it, but it is a big deal. It's a huge company, and they got a lot of space assets, and I think they have an important role to play and will play an important role as space goes forward. But boy, I think knocking Redwire off the post of that kind of industry is tough to do. And I saw where SPACs are coming back into popularity.
Yeah,
and I believe that.
Yeah, I can't believe that either. Like the reason that I kind of like drew a line of everybody who got the SPACs, yes, there are a few that did okay. Spire has been up and down. Like there's been a couple that have been like, okay, there's a little bit there.
Okay.
But
that was a big story this year. Spire almost getting delisted.
Yeah. So I kind of just drew a line of SPAC isn't the normal way into the market. Voyager was. That's why I felt like that was kind of a line to be drawn between the past and the present. That's interesting that you don't put as much weight on Voyager. All right, that's cool. I'm gonna look into that.
Again, I'm being
I understand your biases.
I have biases. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you were my client and I was telling you to buy stock, I would say, guys, I'm prejudiced. Go find somebody neutral because you don't want my thing. And I want to thank Doug and AJ. The guy's full name, for those of you that want to look more into who is supposed to be the deputy NASA administrator, is Matthew M-A-T-T Anderson. You can Google him or AI him or whatever, and you can see his credentials, and then you can make up your own mind as to whether he is the guy to be Jared's right hand. And is it sealed in blood already by the Senate, or is it pending? I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So moving again, since this is a year in review, and in particular, the ISS just celebrated 25 years of continuous habitation.
I know that, Anderson.
You know Anderson?
I do.
How do you know the gentleman?
I'm sorry. I'm literally reacting to this on the spot. I did not know this was happening. I'm like, he started the Space Force Association.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So he's the head of the Space Force Association, with who I've talked to at conferences because he has a booth.
Yeah, right.
He's not a Space Force guy in a uniform ready to go, beat the crap out of aliens. He's in the Rah Siskumva Association.
Yeah, he's on the air side of the Air Force. He was a colonel. His call sign is Wolf. I've interviewed him a couple times on my old shows. I had no idea he was being considered for this role. He has a very, very militaristic perspective of space. But interestingly, he was out before Space Force existed.
They brought him back for this association.
Yeah. So he founded that. So I had no idea. I literally did not know. And then when Dr. Scathari and Plata posted Anderson, I'm like, I know that name. Who is that guy? And so I looked it up while we were on the show, and so that's a big surprise. Yep.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. So look, would on the right hand, everybody, I have Dr. Greg Autry. And on the left hand, everybody, I have retired Colonel Air Force Matt Anderson.
Right.
You pick who you want to guide Jared through some really treacherous landmines to get us back to the moon and to revitalize NASA. And I don't know Matt very well, but I've met him at booths on the Space Force. But my vote, again, I'm biased, because I know Greg so well.
Yeah.
And I think Greg is terrific. So
Yeah.
I vote for Greg on the right hand.
Yeah.
But that isn't the game in town. You know, the general doesn't get to go to war with the army he wants. He goes to war with the army he has.
Yep.
We need to remember that, and that's the same for Jared. He doesn't get to develop space policy and programs with his dream team. He has to take what he gets, and what he gets may come from the Congress or the White House, or I don't know, some other source.
Both. He gets the direction from the White House and the money from Congress. So he's got to thread that needle. That was a phrase you used a little while ago. He's got to thread that needle very carefully.
Tom, what else were you going to say?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Look,
here, Doug, for people who want to read Doug Plata, he's just a bio about Matt.
Right. No, what I was going to say was that another topic for a year-end show is that ISS just celebrated 25 years of continuous habitation. Now the question is, if it's due to come down in 2030, is the private sector going to be ready to carry the ball?
I'm today cynical, maybe pessimistic. Cynical means sarcastic. Yeah. I do think some of the private sector space stations will succeed. I don't know that all of them will. I hope VAST does, and there's a couple of others that I have favorites. I know you talked to Lynn Harper. We talked to this yesterday too, and I've talked to Lynn and others. The absence of the national lab on the space station is a real concern to me. I think it's really valuable to the United States, to medicine, to science, to technology. I am not sure that any of the private stations can be a replacement for that national lab. I know I asked Lynn if there were movements to keep the station afloat longer, and she kind of indicated that maybe there were, but if there are, we're not hearing about any of them. And it costs so much to keep the station up there, and it is so old. My hunch is that it stays or not.
One thing I have to mention this though. Earlier this fall, VAST, wants to build a private station. They're actually actively soliciting RFPs,
right,
for science stuff. That's not replacing a national lab per se, but at least they're looking at the problem.
Yeah,
they want to do something.
Yeah, and they also have a proposal out there to do a spin module to finally figure out the gravity prescription, which I'll never forget Jim Logan telling me the first time he was on the space show about 24 years ago. He says, you'll know when the government and NASA are serious about human spaceflight beyond LEO when they figure out the gravity prescription. And if they don't figure it out and they don't put resources into figuring it out, 100% that they are not interested in human spaceflight beyond LEO. Mm-hmm. And I think there may be merit in what Jim Logan said.
Yeah.
Sure. Because where are we? That's a disappointment for 2025. Zero progress on determining the gravity prescription. And
I know.
The National Lab did not help us in that sense.
No. Well, here's the thing. You were with me at that Mars Society conference where we met Jennifer in 2001 on Stanford. Somebody from MIT did a wonderful presentation about an initiative they call the Mars Gravity Biosatellite.
Right.
And it looked really cool, and it looked really doable. It was an Apollo-like capsule with a habit trail in it, around the outer edge, and you just spin it on its longitudinal axis, and you put mice in there, let mice do what they do for a few months, and then bring it down again. And you could set it for Mars gravity or lunar gravity or whatever you wanted. And so this could have been done 25 years ago.
Yeah, and Joe Carroll, who has many good plans to do this. So,
Yep.
I mean, this is a question for 2026. Maybe I'll focus on it on the space show. Are we serious about human spaceflight beyond LEO? And if we are, when and how and who will be responsible for determining the gravity prescription for human spaceflight? No other country is really pursuing it very strongly. I mean, China does a little bit on it. Russia is too busy blowing the shit out of the Ukrainians to put any money into anything for humanity or for construction.
Right.
And the Europeans, I guess, are going to be busy building a gateway. So I think the private sector, this is a big chunk of money for them because it involves human spaceflight. So I don't know, but I think we need to be really serious about figuring out the gravity prescription. And I'm sad to say 2025 was not a great year for doing that. And I hope 2026 is. But it would not be on my prediction list.
Right. I was just about to kind of throw a little bit of cold water on that. I can't think of anybody who's actually doing that work right now.
Well,
even Vast, even Vast, because that's not a 2026 plan. That's I think 2029 plan.
Yeah, and it's their second module, I think.
Right. Yeah. I don't think there's anything happen. Nothing that I'm aware of in 2026 for that. Nothing I'm aware of.
And I know all sorts of nonprofits that have talked about it, that have had ideas for not frequent flyers, but for nearby flyers to the ISS, to have this kind of thing. There was a centrifuge that was being planned before Challenger happened and never got picked up again. If you remember, in Obama's big infrastructure bill that he did way back in another time zone on another planet in another starship, he said he had money for determining the gravity prescription with a centrifuge at the space station. I don't remember the exact language, but somebody could fact check that. I remember that was in his infrastructure bill.
Wow, I do not remember that.
Check it out. People fact check me, and if I'm wrong, please let me know, because I'm almost 80, so maybe my memory isn't worth a damn. But I was really excited to hear that finally we're going to put money into determining the gravity prescription, and it was in his big infrastructure bill in Obama's presidency.
I'll look that up. Jason's got a question about ITAR. Will ITAR adjust to incorporate clients abroad? Do you think that anybody's going to rewrite or modify ITAR when all the other rules are getting rechanged and rewritten? One that we could really use is rewriting ITAR. Do you think that's on anybody's to-do list?
I think it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
I could make a really sarcastic comment about the administration, but I'm going to refrain from it. But no, legitimately, I don't think it will be on anyone's schedule. But stranger things have happened. You can go see Strange Things Happen or whatever that new movie just came out on Hulu. What's it called? Stranger Things or something like that.
Oh yeah.
That's at the end. Yeah.
With the mysterious ending. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I have said for a long time that ITAR was the best thing to happen to other nations' space programs,
especially Italy,
in the last 25, 30 years. Yeah. ITAR's done nothing but cause us problems, but yeah. Oh, Jason says it. The centrifuge in ISS was confirmed. So yeah, you're right.
Well, they have a tiny one up there for mice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really kind of a miniature toy centrifuge. So they can do limited studies with mice, but no, it was in Obama's bill, and wonder where the money went. Wonder if it went to Minnesota.
I just want to get a few things in to see if we can get some policy stuff here. One of the things they're also talking about this year has been a big deal about nuclear power, both in orbit and on the moon, especially on the moon. And Trump seems to be interested in something like that. Where does that fit into the whole lunar economic development scheme?
Every place. You need power on a planetary surface. You need planet power on an orbital station. And I know there's some people out there in another century, in another timeline, that think nuclear is going to blow us all up and screw us all up, and we're all going to glow at dark. But I'm telling you, that is, if you want a clean energy, get off of all this wind crap and terrestrial solar and start going nuclear. It's clean. It can provide power for the AI systems that we need. It can provide our electrical power, and we don't have to be afraid of it. Look at nuclear in France with the new generation plants. Dr. Kothari has brought thorium to our attention, and China is now building thorium reactors to power ships and to power reactors. We have thorium reserves that could power us for 600,000 years. Why the hell aren't we using it? And so I'm a big fan of nuclear. I'm a big fan of fusion research, although I know that's still just 2 years away, Tom. Just 2 years away.
Just 2 years away.
But absolutely, we need to have nuclear for space. We need to have nuclear for the moon, for the Mars. We need to have nuclear for our power grid in the United States. And if you really want to progress and you really want safe, environmental, green power, people, it's nuclear with the new kinds of reactors, not what we had at 3 Mile Island or San Onofre in San Diego. And you don't put them on earthquake faults like they did the one in California, and then make the ratepayers pay to disassemble it, rather than the bastards who made the decision to site it on an earthquake fault. I mean, clean up the act, get the fear out of it. Let's start talking about real science, real safety, real nuclear. The Navy has not had a nuclear accident. I'm just,
Right.
Why aren't we doing it?
So overdue.
Why aren't we doing it? I mean,
also the other thing too, it comes down to the question: do you really give a shit about humans in space? If you want to send something starship sized, let's say, with a bunch of people on it to Saturn, you're going to need nuclear power for the ship and nuclear propulsion for the spacecraft.
Absolutely.
Period.
And I give a shit about humans in space. I say on the space show for 25 friggin' years, the path through a better world, not just the rich people in the United States and the billionaires, but this even means the people in Kenya and the people in Somalia and the people in Ethiopia and all these countries around the world that don't have a pot to piss in, as they say, or educational systems, or everybody. This path goes through space.
Yep.
And you gotta wake up to 2026 and realize that we have the ability to access space with our technology, and we can do it basically with safety. I think we're learning to do it more economically, and this is how we better our world. And I'm telling you, in the Cold War, when I was doing duck and cover drills in Tulsa, Oklahoma in grade school, in case we saw a big nuclear mushroom on the west side of Tulsa, okay, we could duck under our desk and think that we're going to be okay. Those bastards were making peace and creating a way to mutually dock with each other and shake hands in space. They weren't trying to do that on the battlefield. They were doing it in space. And there is a reason for that. And that is our future goes through friggin' space. And anyone who doesn't get that, get off the goddamn train, go to a nursing home, go live in your little cabin someplace. I don't know what. Get with it. You want a better world? Quit all your goddamn protest out in the street and understand where and how you get the better world that you want. And it goes through friggin' space.
Absolutely. 100%.
Avenue. I'm sorry. I'm yelling and I'm so
No, no,
but
yeah.
God, I'm almost 80 and I've been doing this for 25 years and other people have been doing it for 2 and 3 times that long.
Jason on the call is he's saying, "Yeah, preacher, yes, right." Like,
Preach it, brother.
right.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Tomlinson at preaching, but God, I'm just as passionate, and we know the same goddamn answer.
Right.
Remember in that Billy Crystal cattle movie about a cattle drive? Do you remember what the name
Oh
of it?
yeah.
Three
City
amigos?
Slickers.
Slay
What?
Stickers. Yeah.
On
Slay Stickers.
vacation. I'm on vacation.
The old cattle drive guy kept saying, number one. The answer is, and he raised up, the index, number one. Well, the number one is space. And
Right.
get off of all your preconceived bullshit and help us build a really truly better world. And it goes through space. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I know we have our problems, and we have our problems with space too, but Jesus. Anyway, that I don't want to preach your whole show.
No, dude, that was the best thing I've heard
bring,
this
bring
real.
Thompson on to do the preaching. I'm not known as a preacher.
That's good though. You did great. You're doing great. The only guy that does better at that, I think, is Bob Zubrin when he gets on a certain rant.
Fabulous.
I saw him. The
Fabulous.
best time I ever saw him was at an ISDC. I think it was in Huntsville, and he did the 8 o'clock in the morning opening talk, and it really did look like a Sunday revival meeting in there. It was insanely great the way he did that. Final couple of minutes, David. So what's your crystal ball for the next, say, 5 years?
I think human spaceflight will start to be more routine, but it won't be quite fully routine.
Okay.
I think we will have a human presence on the moon, but it may not start in 2028. So 5 years from now, it could be 31. So I think we will have a human presence. I think it will start to be permanent and evolve. I can't predict Mars because I can't predict what Musk may or may not do, especially if he's going to make SpaceX public, because a public board of directors and stockholders may decide we want you to concentrate on return on investment, not going to Mars where there is no return on investment. So how that plays out, man, that's going to be fascinating. That
I want to buy one share just so I can sit in on the quarterly call.
Oh, absolutely, and to get their confidential things. But how much do you think one share would cost?
I don't know. It might be worth it. Just to be on the quarterly call, get to listen to that. Oh my God, how is he going to do it?
Maybe we can merge our 2 radio shows and buy a common one share together.
There we go. A one giant quantity.
And put Cynics as a co-owner.
We'll call it the one giant quantity. That's all we got.
So we'd have to buy it in the aftermarket because they'd never give us one share at the IPO. But I don't know. What's it? It's $1 trillion IPO estimated at.
$1.5 trillion,
maybe 1.4.
But how many shares are they putting out there? Do we know?
No, we don't know yet. But the folks at Payload, the news.
Yeah, I know Payload. Yeah.
They are thinking it might jump to 2.5 trillion and then settle at 2. I'm like, settle at 2. That's insane.
Wow.
Insane.
Wow.
Well, maybe, I'd like to sit in on those quarterly calls, and I'd like to get their SEC approved financial statements.
Right.
But we forgot to mention that, but I think that is going to be one exciting 2026 venture. Is
so much money.
IPO. That is going to be wild. And in 5 years, permanent presence on the moon, Starship or something like it will be flying, and we will have a heavy rocket capability. I think we will have a more, and I'm sorry to say this, a more national security oriented, weaponized space.
Sadly,
I would like to see the start of space rescue with the Space Force, or if it's not the Space Force, the Coast Guard or somebody. I think with more human presence, we need space rescue. and I know it's being talked about at AIAA gigs. Mike Gold has been on panels from it from Redwire, so it is in the works, and it's not there yet. It needs some funding. It needs some push. I think in 5 years we'll see the beginnings of space rescue, and I I think we have to see nuclear power, even fission nuclear power, making its way into space, whether for propulsion. I'm not talking about on launch, but I am talking about in space propulsion
Right.
and in space power, lunar power, Martian power. We need to see that.
Yeah.
And maybe on the outside, Musk might do some kind of a human mission to Mars, maybe, but there's a lot of policy and politics that will govern that too.
Absolutely.
So I can't really predict that. I don't know. What do you guys see in 5 years?
Ah, someone's landing on the moon. I don't know who yet. I'm not gonna put it out. I like to say we get there first. I hope we do, but China may pull a fast one. I don't know. I don't know where we're gonna go from there. But guys, on that, we have to close it down. We have this is the last show for 2025. Dr. David Livingston, always thank you again. It's like the third time you've been our guest. I hope we see you again next year, a couple of times in the future. This is so much fun talking to you, and it's such a good time. So please come back again.
Yeah,
there will be no.
Maybe I'll bring the two of you on a Zoom show together, end of first quarter next year.
Okay,
and
we'll do it.
We can
do it.
Or do them together or something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yep. There will be no show this coming Thursday for obvious reasons. Happy New Year. This is our last show of the year. We will be returning, however, on Monday, the 5th of January, with all sorts of news and the general tomfoolery, as always. We might have a guest, we don't know yet, but we'll have fun no matter what we do. As always, 8 p.m. Eastern. For David Livingston, Sean Key, Michael Lane, from the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, I remain Thomas.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, number one.
Truth is up there.
Yeah.